Interesting. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming to Coffee Coaching. It's good to see some of my old friends I haven't seen in a while. I want to thank our sponsors, Trace Rel Dulce, Putt Putt and Ice Cream Parlor, and Bavarian Inn Bakery, a great place to go get some baked goods. And today we have Heather Contant from DMAC, who's going to talk to us about some electricity.
Hi, Heather.
Hello. All right. Thanks so much, Cindy. I am going to share my screen. That's always a fun test to see how it's gonna go. So
It's not just you.
Right? Can you all see my screen okay?
Yeah.
I can, yep.
Okay, perfect. We're gonna make this bigger. Okie dokie. So thank you so much, Cindy, for reaching out to offer us the opportunity to talk about energy saving tips for local businesses. And we're hopefully gonna share some things, remind you of some things you guys might know already, and maybe share a few things that you haven't heard before. My name is Heather Contant. I am the Director of Government and Community Relations for the Delaware Municipal Electric Corporation, also known as DMEC. And just a little bit about us before we get started, so you know kind of how we came into this. We are a joint action agency. We've been around for over 43 years. We have 8 member communities throughout the state of Delaware. So if you get a bill from the town of Smyrna or the city of Milford, anything like that, if you get a monthly utility bill from a local community, they are likely to be one of our members. And so we focus on the electric utility. We focus on providing reliable and environmentally responsible power supply, advocating for them to maintain their local decision-making authority, providing them services, both legislative and regulatory, along with training opportunities, and building assets like new solar facilities and helping support wind farms. And then just having that engaged and knowledgeable staff like myself to help kind of share the information that we hear and the latest news we have from the industry. So the learning objectives we're going to have for today, it'll be short and sweet. We're going to talk about 5 different areas where small businesses can save energy, and we'll go into a little bit of detail about each of those. Have just a little bit of specialized insight to share in regards to a few different types of small businesses that you might be a part of. And then just a little plug for some programs and services that you might want to know about that I know DMEC provides our members, but if you are a customer of another electric utility, they probably have something similar. So without further ado, we will get into the very first one, which is electronics. So we were just talking about this, Cindy, actually, and before we got started, about phantom energy. And so a lot of times we end up talking about this in October, and we pair it up with Halloween to talk about phantom energy, because it's that energy that you don't realize you're using that's sucking away energy throughout the day. It's going to be, especially for businesses, it's going to be things like your printers and your copiers, your coffee makers, the toaster oven, the chargers, if you have the laptops plugged in. All of those consume energy when they're still plugged in, even if you're not currently using them. So a good thought to keep in mind is if it is something that has a little light that's still on, that's on even when you're not using it, like a lot of times a TV will have a little like red dot in the bottom corner when it's not on, that means that it's consuming energy because it's always ready to be on and be prepared. At home, it can also be things like gaming consoles, and you can put those onto a power strip and make sure that you power down at the end of the day, at least. So if you can't think to keep making sure that you plug and unplug your charger, or you don't want to plug and unplug the printer every morning, or your laptop, you can, I think Todd actually mentioned power strips earlier. And so those are a great way to be able to save that energy. And it's just one button that you have to push and it powers down everything else. They also have things called smart power strips now. where it'll be something that, say, your laptop is connected to the main plug, and it won't allow the printer or the copier or the scanner to turn on unless your laptop is turned on. And so it'll kind of have an effect where it's tied to one thing being turned on as to whether or not you actually have the rest drawing electricity. And it's a little bit over time, but it's sort of like multiple pennies make a dollar, and that adds up. You can definitely notice that if you start having your employees, or you start trying to power down and unplug things that you're not using at the end of the day and just replug them in the morning, that it can save a little bit over time. Sleep mode is also a nice fail-safe for your laptops and desktops. So if you don't think that your employees are going to remember to actually turn off their laptops at the end of the day, you can just set it to when they go into sleep mode at the end of the day, and that can also help save money, and then you don't have to remember it every night. Another idea when it comes to electronics, and I know a lot of people have switched over to laptops, but if you still have employees, or if you're still using a desktop computer, we encourage you could switch over to a laptop. They typically use half as much energy as a desktop computer. So another way to save energy, especially if you have multiple people on desktop computers, would be to switch them over to laptops, and you're going to have about half as much energy being consumed from that.
Wow.
Another topic is lighting. It's a popular one, especially when it comes to businesses. It is usually the easiest one. The easiest energy use to reduce is going to be switching your lighting. And it's certainly become a lot less expensive to use LED lighting and to purchase LED lights. When it comes to energy efficiency and really any appliance, you want to make sure that you're looking for an Energy Star certified appliance. But LED lighting, which used to be, 5-10 years ago, it used to be extremely expensive, and you could only get them in like medical operating room bright white lights. And now you can get them in all the different warm hues. You can get them to where they actually fit for your normal fluorescent tubes that might have been going along your ceiling. You can actually get them fitted so that LED lights can go wherever a fluorescent light tube was. And it can be an easy switch, and it certainly starts saving a lot of energy right away. It's usually the second greatest contributor to the energy bill for most businesses. And so it is a quick and easy way to really start seeing some of those savings. Another thing when it comes to lighting, we certainly encourage folks to turn off unnecessary lighting when you're not in a room. So don't have all of your meeting spaces have all their lights on all the time. Or if you have a hallway that leads to, the restrooms or something, you could have that turned off, or have it so that it's either motion censored or it's timed. So like I know here at DMEC for our kitchen area, it has both. It has a motion sensor, so it'll only turn on the light when someone walks into the room, but then it also has a timer associated with it so that 10-15 minutes after you leave the room, it automatically turns back off. We also do that in our restrooms. So they are an easy way too, that you kind of set it and forget it, and you don't have to always remember to turn off all of these lights if you purchase the sensors and timers. And I know a lot of folks who are actually putting them in their own homes in their bathrooms so that they don't have to worry about their kids leaving the lights on. So it's a really simple switch that you can make to kind of easily take care of that unnecessary lighting. It accounts for nearly 20% of all of the energy use in commercial buildings. And again, it's going to be the more energy efficient the lighting, the cooler it runs. So the lower your cooling costs are going to be. So your normal typical lights are going to run warmer. And if you have a lot of lights on in your building, that's going to warm up the space. And so when you're trying to make it cooler with your HVAC, you're going to find that you don't have to turn up the HVAC to have the air conditioner running as quickly if you have switched over to LED lighting, because those cooling costs will go down. Moving right along to the outdoors. So a lot of times people are thinking mostly inside the house or inside your business when you're talking about energy efficiency or ways to save energy. And outdoors, you can actually play a pretty big role when it comes to saving energy. So landscaping is going to be a huge piece. If you strategically place different trees or shrubs around your building or around your home, you can have a shade tree where it's going to block the window from direct sunlight, meaning that that heat isn't going to come right into your office space or your room. And then shrubs that are planted close to the home can actually insulate the building during the winter. And so the warmth that you're trying to keep inside your home, it actually gets extra insulation because of the shrubbery that's placed around your home or your business. So strategically placing those so that you can block that sunlight, especially in the summertime, will help you avoid that extra heat coming into your home through your windows or business. And so speaking of the windows, just a friendly reminder as we're getting into the warmer days for your businesses, make sure that you're closing those blinds and curtains during the day, especially at the height of the day. So when you're hitting, and it's going to be around, noon to 2, noon to 3, you really want to make sure that those blinds and curtains are closed to block the sunlight from coming in. It will significantly warm up your office, which is great in the wintertime. You want to have those wide open so that you're not having your HVAC system running in the winter to warm up the office, but you also don't want to have the AC turning on just because you have sunlight coming in and heating up your office as well. So it is a great way to make sure that you reduce having that HVAC system running as much as possible, just remembering to kind of open and close them in the right season. Moving right along, the HVAC unit. Now that is typically the highest contributor. So lighting's many times the second. HVACs are typically the highest contributor to an energy bill. And there's some really simple things that you can do when it comes to reducing the cost of running that HVAC system. So we are a big proponent of programmable thermostats, and not only setting them so that the temperatures are kind of right where you want them during the day, but being very mindful of what it's set to run at night. So after hours, those, if you're running 8 to 5, you want to make it so that in the after hours in the evening, your HVAC system, your thermostat is going to you want to set that about 10 degrees warmer in the summer. So it can get 10 degrees warmer in the summer, or it can get 10 degrees colder in the winter, so that you're not heating or cooling off a space that nobody's using. So in the summertime, you don't want the AC running to keep it at 72 degrees at midnight when nobody's in the office. You can allow it to get up to, say, 80 degrees overnight, and then you want to bring it back gradually before your workday begins. So the nice thing about a programmable thermostat is you don't have to just have 2 different settings. You can have it so that at 6:30, it bumps it up a couple degrees. Then at 7, it bumps it up a couple more. And then at 7:30, it bumps it up a couple more, so that by the time the office opens up at 8, it is back to the desired temperature. The big key word there is you want it to gradually get warmer or cooler before the workday begins, because if you try to have your HVAC system jump from 80 degrees to 70 degrees in a short amount of time, it's going to make it work really hard, and it's going to actually draw more energy because you're trying to make too big of a jump. So gradually bring it back and have those settings, and especially on the weekends too. If you're a business that doesn't operate on the weekends, you're going to also want to make sure that your HVAC system isn't running at 2 p.m. on a Saturday when you're not even open, cooling off a space that nobody's in. And that will typically save around 10% of your HVAC energy costs if you just make that simple switch to have it not run when your office is closed, and then gradually get back up. Another key thing to remember is to make sure you're cleaning and tuning those HVAC systems. So always a good plug to use a licensed contractor for this, but you will save money by having it run more efficiently and preventing those costly repairs. A key part of that is even just replacing the air filters monthly, making sure that the air filter isn't causing your HVAC system to run a little bit harder because it hasn't been changed in a few months. So that is a simple way to make sure that you're helping your HVAC system operate efficiently. And so a fan favorite can also be making sure that you use those fans in certain spaces where you're operating. If you have an office space that does usually get a little bit warmer, I know my office actually has windows on 2 walls, and so it can get pretty toasty during the day. And so instead of me cranking up the AC so that the whole office building gets cooler, I have a fan here so that it helps move the air. It helps me feel that cooler air, and I avoid changing the thermostat. Now, if you have a space where you have a ceiling fan, I know at least at home, we're always wondering in the summer, which way is it supposed to rotate? In the winter, which way is it supposed to rotate? So I put a little plug here so that you know if you have a ceiling fan, rotate it counterclockwise in the summer, and then ceiling fans, you want them to rotate clockwise in the winter. So in the summertime, you want it to draw the heat up so that all that heat's going up towards the ceiling and you feel cooler down on the ground. In the winter, obviously, you want it to be pushing that heat down so that when heat rises, it actually forces it back down so you feel that warmth. So you can use a fan actually both in the summer and the winter. You just got to make sure that a ceiling fan is rotating the right way. And then something that most folks forget about, especially when you're trying to design an office space and you want it to look really nice. And so you buy maybe some big drapes or you have a nice seating area. You just want to make sure that you keep furnishings and drapes away from any air vents, the radiators, fans. You just want to make sure you keep that that airflow open. So you want to make sure that you know where the air vents, where those air ducts are within your office, especially if they're coming from the floor. If you have maybe an office space that's in a building that was designed as a home, and so the air vents are in the floor, you want to make sure that you haven't put the desk over top of the air vent. You want to make sure you didn't put a couch over top of the air vent, or if you have really, you know, lush drapes over the window, but that's also where the air vent is located under the window, you want to make sure that's not covering it up so that airflow can kind of get through. And talking about air ducts and vents and everything, if you do have, I know, you know, downtown Dover has a lot of older buildings. If you have an office space that's in an older building that has baseboard heating, or it's even old enough to have sort of through the wall heat pumps, or you're using a window AC unit, a really good investment would be to switch over to a ductless heater or ductless AC. It's usually called a mini split, but that can actually save up to 50% of the energy use if you switch from baseboard heating over to a mini split. It will save you about 50% of the energy that you're using, just because baseboard heating and window AC units are pretty inefficient when it comes to energy use. And so there's a little bit of that upfront investment to switch over to the mini split, but over time you will find that it continuously uses less energy than your baseboard heating did.
Can I ask a quick question? What is a mini split?
So if you go into a space and you see, it sort of looks like it's bigger than it's about like a printer or scanner size thing. It's usually a rectangle. It's like about this big, and it's stuck on the wall, usually up by the ceiling. And it has a couple little vents. So it's almost like an internal AC unit. And so you can actually set it. I know a lot of Airbnbs use it. I know you talked about having your home as an Airbnb. And so instead of having the entire HVAC system running, if you're especially only Airbnb-ing out a certain room within your home, you can actually put a mini split up. And so it doesn't have that big AC unit outside. It doesn't need that. So it's all internally controlled, and it can do both heat and it can do AC. And so you don't have to put a window AC unit in and out of the window every summer. And you don't have to run really inefficient baseboard heating or radiator heating, which can, get hot and you have to worry about. So it's a little bit of an upfront cost, but the monthly savings that you'll have from energy use that you didn't incur from running an entire HVAC system.
What about those portable airless ones that they hook into the window? I've seen those, not the old insert ones, but the ones that sit on the floor and you pipe them out.
Yeah, I mean, they are better than the window AC unit for sure. And they're not as big of an upfront investment as the mini splits are. But I think if you're trying to not have to have the window space opened or used at
Right.
all, and you want to be able to keep the window closed, the ductless system is certainly the way to go.
Hmm.
And then last thing, speaking about the different types of heating and cooling you can use in a space, I'm going to do a little plug. I know we're heading into the summer, but when it comes to the winter time, I know a lot of offices, a lot of employees like to try to bring in small space heaters. So because they don't like the temperature of the office is too cold, and they bring in a little space heater and they plug it in next to their desk all day. One big plug of a safety plug here. If they forget to turn off the space heater at the end of the day, there's certainly a fire concern of safety heaters or space heaters if they're running too close to any sort of curtains or furnishings, but also if they're left on overnight. However, we're talking about energy savings, and just for perspective, a small space heater running every day while that person is working adds up to $40 a month to your electric bill. And so if you're thinking of maybe you have 4 people working in different offices and they each have a small space heater running 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, you're going to add roughly, depending on the price of your energy at the time, it could be as much as $40 per space heater per month. And so that will quickly add to your energy bill. And it is a small little space heater, so you don't think it's doing very much, but they are huge energy users. So I know we're going into the summer, but I do want to make a little plug about space heaters because they're generally a huge culprit for a large energy bill in the wintertime.
Hmm.
So we're rounding things off for the energy savings tips, but not knowing the size of your different businesses, I did want to talk a little bit about peak demand. Now that's going to pretty much, in summary, that's the highest energy use you have in a year. And so it is what amount of energy does the utility need to send? What's the highest amount it's ever going to need to send at any given time for your business to run? And that can cause, depending on the size of your business and depending on the utility that you have, you may or may not have what's called a demand charge on your utility bill. If you do, it is as important as all the other things I just said to lower your average monthly energy use. Reducing that peak, reducing your highest consumption in a year is equally as important, because if you have that demand charge, most of the time, a demand charge is determined by your highest energy use within 15 minutes the year prior. And then it is the charge you will have the entire next year. So we do things, I know the co-op has a program called Beat the Peak. DMEC has a program called Power Savers. And so, and Delmarva Power has one as well. And so we'll actually put out notices of these peak energy days where we know our energy costs the most, because as the system itself, the whole electric grid is being drawn on at a high capacity, but you can do little things to lower your peak as well as a business. And so you just want to kind of think about, most of the time it's going to fall in the summertime. It's going to fall on those really hot days that are going to be above 90 degrees. And that's usually when you're thinking to crank up the AC unit. But it's also when you've got to think about too, what sort of your business operations look like. So if at the same time you're cranking up the AC and then you also have a lot of equipment running, depending on what you do, it can add to your demand. But every utility in Delaware, every electric utility has a demand, what's called a demand response program. And so you can actually contact your utility and say, is there a way that I can get involved in your demand response program? Are there programs, I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit, but are there programs that I can get involved to help my business lower my demand so that I can save some money? But especially if you have about, if you're closer to a medium-sized business when it comes to your energy use, and you do see a demand charge on your bill, you certainly want to pay close attention to that, but it can help anybody. All right, so a couple little specialized insights that I found that I thought would just be some fun facts, depending on the type of business, if you fall into any of these categories, is that a restaurant, it usually uses, on average, 5 to 7 times more energy per square foot than any other commercial building. If you think about it, there's a lot usually going on when it comes to restaurants, but typically refrigeration is one of their top energy users. Refrigerators, big freezer spaces, and then of course they're going to also see lighting and everything to follow, but it's usually a lot of energy use in a more condensed space. So you really want to focus when it comes to refrigeration on fixing any leaks that you have for air getting in or out of the refrigerator or freezer doorways. You want to replace any of those gasket strips, keep the area around the fridge equipment, including the fans and the condensers, very clean and open. And obviously this is a big time to plug for an Energy Star energy efficient appliances and switching over to LEDs sooner than later to bring down those costs, because the refrigerators and freezer systems are certainly going to be the bigger energy users there. And then finding ways that during the startup and shutdown time for the restaurant to efficiently plan out food prep, cooking, cleaning, and all the use of that equipment so that you're not going back and forth with it throughout the day as much as possible, to utilize that equipment efficiently. And so sort of planning ahead can play a huge role there. Hotels historically use most electricity for lighting, followed by cooling. So beginning with lighting improvements are certainly going to benefit hotels and motels more, because they obviously have a lot more space and a lot more lighting. They're going to usually have overhead lighting in the lobbies and in the hallways, but then they have a lot of lamps within the rooms. And so beginning with lighting improvements are certainly going to be the first steps to saving energy, but installing occupancy sensors like we had talked about, like we use for our break room, they are play a huge role when it comes to the lighting within a hotel room, and whether or not it's occupied, having lights and TVs, turn off when the room is empty, and linking that emergency or that energy management system with reservations so that you're not heating and cooling rooms that nobody's using. Then grocery stores and convenience stores, their highest dependence is on refrigeration. If you think about walking through the frozen food aisle of your local Walmart or Redner's, you think about all of those freezers that are running 24/7. And so you really want to think about 40% of their total energy use is spent on refrigeration and freezer systems. And so they would be ones to really benefit from specialized commercial energy audits to assess what refrigeration systems they're using, Energy Star appliances. Newer units will also usually switch over to LED lighting. So it's not just running as a refrigerator, but usually the lights are on all the time. So newer units are going to have motion sensors so that freezer that has the ice cream in it only turns on the lights when someone opens the door, or the lighting within it isn't really old lighting, it's LED lighting. And so it's usually actually brighter, but the motion sensors when it comes to grocery store and convenience store refrigeration units can be a huge game changer. And so also just making sure that cleaning those cooling coils and stuff on the backs of all of those units remains a priority to keep that cost down. And then when it comes to small manufacturers, a few pieces usually consume the most energy. And so you've really got to look at the process when it comes to those types of facilities. A lot of times it's going to be those motor systems for industrial facilities. And then it goes to the process heating and cooling. So all the functions that are going through to making whatever they're manufacturing, that process is heating and cooling system is next. And then the whole building's HVAC system, and then the whole building's lighting is usually the order in which their energy use falls. So just paying attention to options for both building lighting, and then as well for all businesses, depending upon your size. If you have a parking lot that has lighting that you pay for, You're going to also want to consider switching and making sure that the outdoor lighting you have around your office or within your parking lot is switched to LED lights and has a timing system so that it's not turning on when it's still bright out, but you have that safety that you want at night, and determining when at night you might want it to turn off, or do you want to have it running all night long. But certainly those outdoor lights and parking lot lights are usually ones that people forget to think about, but they can be big energy users as well. And they can also be switched over to a more efficient LED lighting. So then last but not least, just a little plug again, I kind of went ahead of myself there, but ask your utility, because if you're a Delmarva Power, you're a co-op customer, or you're a municipal electric utility customer, they all have programs and services relating to energy efficiency, demand response, and then just another little plug if you wanted to look into renewables to see if that's another way to save on your energy costs. They all have different programs and services that are designed and can help your business reduce its energy costs. It just takes getting to learn a little bit more about what those programs are. Like I said, for DMEX 8 municipal members, all of their customers have access to what's called Efficiency Smart. That is our energy efficiency program. As you can see on the screen, we have both small and large business solutions. We have solutions for residential customers as well. It does not matter what your income or your profit level is. It doesn't matter how many employees you have. It really just boils down to what your energy use and costs are as to whether or not we think that you're a small business or a large business. But we provide different financial incentives to help you make that switch over to more energy efficient lighting, refrigeration, HVAC systems, all of the like. And so we can provide financial incentives. We can also provide rebates when it comes to switching over to energy efficient appliances, as well as appliance recycling. So if you're trying to get rid of an old refrigerator or rid of an old freezer, window AC unit, dehumidifier, if you're a customer of one of our members, we'll help you recycle that and also give you some cash back for responsibly recycling it. And then another neat thing that we offer, if you are one of DMEX members customers, is an electric usage monitor. So it's just a little tool that can plug into any normal electric outlet, and you plug that in, and then say you want to know how much is the printer really using. You plug that into the wall, and then the printer goes into the little usage monitor, and it will tell you exactly how much it's using. And you can utilize that and fill out a sheet to kind of determine how much cost you're incurring from that. So it's a nice little way that you can do a little DIY investigating on your energy usage for your home or business. But I really think the best part that we offer for businesses is we actually have an engineer that can do some technical advice for businesses. They don't sell any products directly, so it doesn't matter which vendor you end up going with. And they're not going to be trying to sell you any sort of specific HVAC system or anything like that. But they will walk through, have an expert engineer walk through, determine all of your energy efficiency opportunities, and then help prioritize that for your business to say, you know what, for your business, here's your largest energy consumer, where if you make the switch, you can get the biggest payback the fastest over time. And then they can also help examine bids for you, because they're not a program that's actually going to give a bid to do the project. They're just telling you what projects need to be done. So if you are a DMEC member customer, you have a lot at your fingertips that you may not know about. And then I mentioned our Power Savers program, where the co-ops beat the peak. I think DP&L might be called like a peak savings program, but that's what's called their demand response program. And so businesses can get involved. Sometimes you can even aggregate with other businesses, but the utility can do that to actually give you potentially even some financial incentives for lowering that high energy use at a time that matters to the utility. So there are a lot of programs and services available for businesses, a lot of ways that you can do little things regardless of the size of your business and the number of employees you have, that I think can go a long way. But with that, I just wanted to say thank you. And we are on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you follow us throughout the year, we will have all the different seasonal energy savings tips. So if you didn't take notes this morning, you can follow us on Facebook, and we'll be sharing these all throughout the summer anyway. So I appreciate all of your time. Thank you for joining me this early morning. And Cindy, thank you so much for having me share this.
And thank you. That was pretty interesting. Can we have like everyone introduce themselves, ask them questions? We'll start with Erlene.
Hi. Well, I had my questions ready, but now I'll introduce myself. Anyway, I'm one of the ambassadors with the Chamber of Commerce. But my full-time career, I own a financial education firm, and we help families manage their money. That's basically in a nutshell. My questions are, I know you talked about reversing the fan. What about, I see some people change their return air grills in the summer and winter. Does that do anything?
Are you talking about like changing the way that the vent is facing?
Yeah, because some of mine are in the ceiling and some are in the floor.
Yeah.
So which way is which? When do you know, like you said, the fan clockwise and counterclockwise. So in the summer and winter, I don't know if the top or bottom, what's supposed to be open and what's closed.
So if you are in the space, you're going to want those vents open. Because regardless of if they're on the top or the bottom, they are actually the cause of the airflow in the office. So if you have one in the ceiling and in the floor, one's your cool air return and one is pushing out the cool air. So that's what's helping the circulation happen. So a lot of times people think, oh, I want to close this because I don't want maybe the cool air pushing on me. You can turn where it's facing a little bit, but you don't want to fully close either of those vents because they're having the airflow the way that the HVAC system needs it to maintain the temperature it's set at. So if you close one of them, it's going to operate, it's going to work harder.
Okay, so leave them both open. Okay.
Yeah.
So to get that monitored, we come see you?
So if you go to, so this is for DMEC member customers. So they have to be a customer of, like, say, the town of Smyrna, the city of Middletown, or the city of Milford, town of Middletown. But if they are a customer, you can go to efficiency.smart.org, and they just select who their utility is. And that same little blurb that you saw that said electric usage monitor will pop up, and they can click on it and request one. But you can also reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you with that.
Okay. And then is that why, like, I noticed that when I travel a lot, hotel rooms, sometimes and some of them, it seems like they get awful warm. It's either like, say in the summer, it's warmer, or sometimes it seems like the air is all the way off. Do they set it like that, like what you were saying, in increments?
A lot of times, hotels, especially newer hotels, are going to be having those motion sensors and occupancy sensors in the rooms now. So that's why you might notice that you set the temperature to say 72 while you were in the hotel room, but then you left for the day and you came back. Sometimes the occupancy sensor notices you're not there, and so it goes back into an energy efficient mode, and it's going to take time once it recognizes you're back. It's an unfortunate side effect of depending on how they've set their energy management system, but that's more than likely why you might find that it's warm when you come back if you've not been there for a bit.
Okay, and then my last question, this was really interesting today, thanks. When you talked about the peak demand, getting involved in that program for businesses, there a program for that in your home?
So the home it's a voluntary program, but it will make a difference. So residential customers, we usually put out alerts on the radio and on Facebook, and we'll say, hey, no matter who you are, if you're willing to just even voluntarily reduce your energy usage during these peak times. So a lot of times in the summer, if it's above 90 degrees, somewhere between 3 and 6 p.m., we usually want people to lower their energy usage. One, it's still going to help them because they're using less energy monthly. But two, that's sort of a thinking on the long term of, if you keep your utilities costs down during those peak times, that means they aren't raising their rates as early because their wholesale costs have remained lower. So the idea is to try to also help the utility not need to spend as much when energy costs the most. so they don't have to raise rates going forward. So there's a voluntary side for residential customers. Now, with new technology, there's starting to become ways. I think Delmarva Power customers can sign up for their thermostat. If they have a smart thermostat like a Nest, they can actually sign up with Delmarva Power to have their AC unit or their thermostat as part of a demand response program. That's about as far as residential programs go, though, when it comes to their thermostat. And then on those hot days, Delmarva Power can control their thermostat.
But a homeowner doesn't get that extra fee?
So if they sign up for a program like the thermostat program, there's usually an extra little financial incentive for being available.
But I mean, for that peak demand fee, you said they charge businesses?
So businesses can sign up to get a financial incentive, and that's through the utility will aggregate them and get a benefit through the wholesale market. And they actually can get usually a check to help out. Residential customers, it's usually so small that they actually can't guarantee like
No, I meant
a business
there's not
customer.
a specific fee to residential like there is.
No, the demand response part's not a special fee to residential customers.
Well, thank you so much. It was very interesting.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Arlene. And we have Lauren and Edward.
Unmute. Hi,
Hi.
my name's Lauren Haggerty. This is my husband, Ed Haggerty. We run Brain Love Neurotherapy in both Rehoboth and Dover. And we just work on speed and connection in the brain. And you need a brain map in 10 sessions. Everybody needs 10 sessions. I have a question for Heather. If you have one of those smart thermostats like Nest and your internet is not stable, what happens there? Because I think I had a friend who had an Airbnb and her internet went out for a couple days and the people there sweltered in her house and it was just bad all the way around.
So I have noticed with the Nest, because we have a Nest as well. We found that happened to us when we allowed it to go into eco mode. Because if the internet goes wonky and it goes into eco mode, you can't get it out of that until your internet connection comes back on. So we found that when we used it more like just a programmable thermostat, and in those trickier times, like especially with an Airbnb, if she has someone in there, she may want to make sure it is not set to eco mode just during that time. And she keeps it in the program side so that it will continue to operate in the program that's already been set. So, just go to 72 to 85 to whatever. It'll keep that program, but she won't have to fight the eco mode part of it when she loses her internet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Did you have a question, Edward?
No. I just thought that Lauren will now continue.
No, I'm good. Okay.
Okay. Todd?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Todd Hilliker. I'm work for the Department of Labor. I'm the Veterans Employment Rep for Canton, Sussex County. I work with Jennifer Jerzak. We work together. We go out and we talk with businesses and see what their employment needs are. And we partner up with them and put their jobs in our database called the Delaware Job Link. And I do not have any questions at this point.
Thank you, Todd.
You're
Jennifer?
welcome.
Jennifer? You there? I think she's on mute.
She's on echo mode.
Huh.
Well, Todd, my dad is a veteran, so I appreciate the work that you guys are doing to help find employment opportunities for them. I know when he retired with 21 years of service, it was a little tricky for him to kind of figure out what role he plays in the civilian world. So anything you guys do to help find them, a way to kind of partner up with somebody else is much appreciated. So thank you.
What branch did he retire out of?
The Air Force. That's actually how I ended up in Delaware, was Dover Air Force Base.
What did he do?
He was in supply. So
Okay.
he helped supply the airplanes. He actually ended up going through Wesley College and getting a business administration associate's degree. So he
Awesome.
operates in management, And now he actually works for the post office. So now he's going to get a different federal pension. But
That's awesome.
but those first few years, especially when he came out, and because I mean he joined at 18, 17, whatever it was, right out of high school. It was all he knew. So those first few years, I think especially can be tricky coming out. And so I think these services are more than needed.
Mhm. We do have a coffee coaching coming up this fall on helping you find jobs through the Delaware State or Delaware
go.
State Labor. Yeah,
I'd like to learn more too about this brain neuro.
Yeah.
We should do a coffee coaching on that.
yeah.
We have,
I'm there for that. Let's help my brain work better. I could use us connecting the right pathways there.
Yeah, yeah. All we do is just take a picture of your brain and then custom protocol you and do exactly the same thing 10 times to train your brain. And people report brain fog lifting. People report less of a processing delay. They can contribute more at work in real time. All kinds of things.
Get
That's
the
amazing.
website.
Yeah, the website is brainloveneurotherapy.com.
All right.
Hey, Todd, I'm also a veteran, a Vietnam veteran and vice president, chapter 1105 in Sussex County.
Oh, okay, yeah. The building just past Greenwood or Bridgeville?
Where we use the American Legion Post 28 for our meetings
Oh, okay.
In Millsboro.
in Millborough, yeah.
Okay, very good.
Wow. Yeah, my son retires in 2 years out of the Army and he's nervous. He's been in
Yeah.
20 years and he's like,
Wow.
How
"No,
long has he
I'll
been
find a
in?
job."
20, she said 20.
Oh,
20.
20.
Yeah. In Hawaii is his station, his last
Nice.
station.
Lucky him.
Mhm.
I was in North Dakota and Delaware.
Well, anybody else have any questions? Glad to see everybody. Is Jennifer back yet? She must have had to go into a meeting or something. Well, I thank you, Heather. This was very interesting. I'm gonna check my fans because I didn't realize there was an up and down button on them. That would make sense, you know?
Yes, it's going to be it's a little tiny like toggle switch that'll be on your ceiling fan.
Yeah, and it goes up.
It'll go like left or right usually.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look for those. Well, I want to thank everybody. Next month, I believe we have LinkedIn. Someone coming in to talk about LinkedIn, how to build your business with LinkedIn. So, and if anyone ever has any ideas or suggestions, let me know. And thank you for coming.
Thanks,
thank
Cindy.
you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you
Good
for the
to see
briefing. Have a
everyone.
good day.
Yep, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.